From Washington, the McLaughlin Group, the American original. For over 3 decades, the sharpest minds, best sources, hardest talk.
Hello, welcome to another edition of the McLaughlin Group. I'm Tom Rogan. This week's panelists are the familiar faces of Eleanor Clift, Clarence Page and Pat Buchanan, and our guest this week is Ryan Girdusky. Welcome, Ryan. On that note, we shall get to our first issue, which is issue 1, debate.
Debating on Thursday, President Trump and former Vice President Biden exchanged sharp blows. Each cast the other as unworthy of the nation's highest office.
We can't keep this country closed. This is a massive country with a massive economy. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Simply not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We're going to make sure that we open safely.
Pat, your thoughts on the final debate?
I thought it was an excellent debate, Tom, and I think it was an important debate because I think it made sure that Donald Trump is alive and well and has a long shot for this victory in November. The second half of the debate, how Biden did a good job in parrying Trump's attacks, but by the second half of the debate at 10 o'clock and beyond there, he started losing it. Biden did. You know, he said Adolf Hitler was a friend of the United States, something before World War II. On oil and gas and fracking, he got himself into trouble. And he's got a credibility problem, Tom, in this. It's now known that Hunter Biden got money from China, he got money from the mayor of Moscow, got money from Ukraine. They had a big new pot of money, and his partner went to see, he says, Joe Biden and talked to him for an hour about this investment. And Biden says he never talked to his son or about his son's finances. So you've got a credibility question coming up out of the debate.
Eleanor.
The first half hour of the debate about COVID, where the president insists we're turning the corner. We just had the highest number of cases through the history of this once in 100-year pandemic. And the president is claiming everything is going to be fine. It does not pass the laugh test or the smell test or whatever test you want to put to it. The debate did not do anything to change the trajectory of the race. Biden performed well. He dealt with climate change in a way that young people want their president to perform. Trump is trying to run on preserving the oil industry and landing all these conspiracy theories, which most people can't even follow. This is a big election. It's not going to turn on Hunter Biden.
So, Ryan, if you look at the debate, do you think it will shift anything politically?
They both had a few gaffes, nothing serious. I thought that Trump's worst answer was on healthcare, honestly, not really COVID, because the Republicans 10 years after Obamacare do not have a plan. And then for Biden, I thought his answer on COVID was actually not great, and his answer on energy was pretty terrible. If there is a shift, it will be because of his comments throughout this entire year about fracking and whether that will influence voters in Texas, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is really the state that if Trump wins Pennsylvania, he will probably be winning this election.
Clarence, do you think that because President Trump showed a kinder and gentler Trump, that might help him with some of these suburban women voters that we've been told so much about?
Marginally, Tom. As you mentioned before, most people have made up their minds already, and there are still some undecideds out there. And certainly, it was important for President Trump to soften his rough edges as much as possible. But I suspect it's too little, too late, frankly. And on that fracking question, interestingly, surveys in Pennsylvania show a slight advantage for those who are anti-fracking. So I think that this may be one of those issues, once again, that hits both sides about equally and is not going to be decisive.
There were some great moments for each candidate. I thought Trump did score in trying to portray Biden as a politician who's been around for 47 years and hasn't done anything. The problem is that that's the outsider position, and this time Trump is is the president and what has he done for the last 4 years. And the best moment was when he compared himself to Abraham Lincoln, said that he's accomplished more for Black people with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. And when Biden then referred to him as Abraham Lincoln, Trump got all flustered and said, I said that the best president for Black people since Abraham Lincoln, wanting us to forget about Harry Truman and Lyndon Johnson. I mean, that was a classic.
Okay. And the reason I wanted to save space is to go on the foreign policy element of the debate, but fair point. Pat, your concluding comments.
My concluding comment is this: it is not over yet. That's the key takeaway from the debate. If Trump had performed, in my judgment, as badly in this debate as he did in the first one, I think a lot of his people would have given up. But he came through disciplined, he came through tough, strong. It was the best debate that Donald Trump has had in 2016 or 2020.
Okay, let's go on to our foreign policy mid-segment.
Taxpayers' money.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money. Didn't come from China.
You know, the taxpayers, it's called China. China paid $28 billion, and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay.
And now we have a steel industry.
Okay, Vice President Biden, your response, please.
My response is, look, this isn't about, there's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family.
So, Eleanor, on this idea of the foreign policy component that links to Hunter Biden, that Joe Biden would say you've used your office for malfeasance, who do you think came up on top?
I don't think viewers have any idea what this is about. And Joe Biden has the class and dignity that he doesn't turn it around and go back at the Trump family, which is cashed in on various trademarks in China. As came out last week, the president actually has a bank account in China and paid more taxes in China than he paid in this country. So I just don't think that is an issue that is sticking. Now, is there a controversy over policy towards China? The president insists that the tariffs have forced China to compensate farmers. That's not how economics works. Those tariffs have not helped farmers. They have forced the federal government to use taxpayer money to bail out the farmers.
Pat, your thoughts?
Tom, the key issue here with regard to the Hunter Biden thing and the rest of it is quite simple. It is the credibility of Joe Biden. He said, I never spoke to my son about his finances. I've never been involved in it. And the very night of the debate, they brought out an individual that Fox News did who said he's a partner with Hunter Biden, and he went and spoke with the vice president of the United States for an hour, or the ex-vice president. Now, if that is true, Joe Biden has a serious problem coming out of this debate. Folks don't understand this issue unless you're steeped in it. But at the bottom, and we got almost 2 weeks left, Joe Biden's credibility is on the line right now. Either he's being lied about horribly, or he's not telling us the truth.
The idea that Donald Trump would tell a lie, I'm so shocked. I mean, the fact is there are a lot of people watching this who are, first of all, confused by these details unless they watch Fox News every night. This has been Fox and New York Post story. And there's not enough there for other media to take much of a serious interest in. Even if they do, I think Biden was right when he said what people care about is not your family or my family, but it's their families. How is these current times affecting them, this Trump administration? Also, a lot of folks feel burned who were lured by the Comey letter coming right before Election Day 4 years ago, thinking that, Hillary Clinton can't be trusted. And then they learned more and more about how Donald Trump was also under investigation, or at least the beginnings of it at the time, et cetera, et cetera. I think right now the public is getting a little tired of a lot of these side issues, really, unless you can link some kind of skullduggery directly to Joe Biden. And look at all the skullduggery that's been linked to Donald Trump, then it's not really that much of a story.
Ryan?
Yeah, so the story is far wider than just Fox News, the New York Post. There was reported that through Facebook alone, 51 million Americans read this story about Hunter Biden. So it is getting a larger play nationwide, and I wouldn't want to underplay it just by saying it's in the New York Post or Fox News. A lot of people
I watched
have heard about
the story. Going to count me? I mean, why not?
Well, but a lot of people have read the story. 51 million Americans is nothing to sit there and throw away, and that's just through Facebook. And it's not a small part of the population. But I will say this, the problem with the story is that Hunter Biden's personal life is far more interesting as far as prostitution, drug addiction, and the idea of possibly even child underage photos on his laptop. That's gotten, I think, a lot more people interested than the connection with
but Ryan,
business.
Ryan, yeah, you're really flirting here with QAnon, I must say.
That's not a QAnon. There are serious, credible allegations about his personal life. That is definitely getting a lot more interest.
All right,
he had a drug problem. Come out and say it. He had a drug problem. You know,
child trafficking is what you have just raised. And all I would
no, I said there are pictures on his laptop, allegedly.
One at a time.
My turn now.
Sure.
Credibility. All I have to say is Rudy Giuliani is behind this. He's promoting this. The government, Trump's government, has been warned that Russia is using him as a tool. And the latest little mini scandal about Rudy Giuliani should tell you all you need to know about the credibility of all of these actors and the desperate attempt to try to turn a huge election on smarmy, unfounded allegations. Pretty
okay. Okay. Hunter Biden was paid tens of thousands of dollars by companies known with foreign governments. Nothing to Rudy Giuliani that's well known. He had no right to be on these companies. He didn't speak the languages. He had no professional background. The funds from the mayor of Moscow's wife, that has nothing to do, that all came way before Rudy Giuliani. The question is, how much did that all came way before Rudy Giuliani? The question is, how much did Joe Biden know? And did the vice president of the United States, was he compromised in any single way or used to facilitate those funds to go to his family? That is an open question that people deserve to sit there and ask.
It's not an open question.
He flew on Air Force Two to go to China.
Ryan, we are not electing Hunter Biden president. We are asked if we want to re-elect President Trump, who owns billions of dollars to unnamed foreign creditors, which makes him a national security risk. To be talking about this
he doesn't own billions of dollars.
8 years ago
that's not true.
Is a complete distraction.
Let's bring in Pat and then Clarence. And
the key thing, let me say this. If Joe Biden had come out and said early on, look, I've got a son who's had drug problems, alcohol problems, personal problems, but he's my son. I love him. Maybe I wasn't sharp enough in monitoring what he was doing. He was a grown man. I think he'd have no problem, but he has insisted. I never talked to my son about money. I never talked to him about his business. And now there are allegations that Joe may have shared in the benefits of this business. So the question, Eleanor, is this. Is Joe Biden lying to the American people about his knowledge of his son's doing? And if he is, then Joe Biden is going to have a problem in the last 2 weeks of this campaign. And my prediction is the national press is going to more and more demand that Biden come out of his basement and answer to these issues because they're looking bad.
Clarence.
Okay, I hear a lot of if with this story. It's speculative right now. As I said last week, they haven't nailed it down. Any good reporter knows what that means. And the public, certainly, Pat is right, though, it is Biden's reputation here. And look at Biden's reputation compared to Donald Trump's reputation for untruths, exaggerations, all kinds of deals that we're just learning more about as we're finally getting to see a hint of his income tax returns, thanks to the New York Times. And Biden said that during the debate, and he was darn right. Trump doesn't have any particular right to the high horse on this issue.
Okay. On the high horse, we move on. Issue 2, the final run.
With the election just 11 days away, both campaigns escalated their final runs for votes. Former President Obama broke with his predecessor's protocol on campaigning against his successor and held his first in-person campaign appearance.
I explained that I never thought Donald Trump would embrace my vision or continue my policies, but I did hope for the sake of the country, that he might show some interest in taking the job seriously.
Meanwhile, President Trump held rallies in key swing states.
Under my administration, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world, and now we are doing it again. In my first 3 years, we increased family income over $6,000 and much more when you include energy, because, you know, these people want to wipe out your energy. We're energy independent. They want to wipe it out. Who ever thought you'd be paying $2 for gasoline, sometimes less? You know, that's like a big tax cut. That's more than 5 times the gains in all 8 years under the Obama administration. Think of that.
Also related to the campaign, the New York Post was vindicated this week when numerous news outlets confirmed that the FBI does not believe Hunter Biden's laptop is part of a Russian disinformation campaign. Finally, British comedian Sacha Baron Cohen's Borat character has struck again, this time seemingly catching Rudy Giuliani in a setup for his new mockumentary, Borat 2. One of our panel fared much better in a 2004 interaction with another of Cohen's incarnations, Ali G.
Is it ever worth fighting a war over sandwiches?
Is it ever worth fighting a war? Yes.
If you become president again, what will you do?
I would change the whole country dramatically, and that's why I'm not going to be president.
Yo! Yo, for real. I was feeling that, man. Yo. Yo, was you mashed or something? You was like so giggly.
Well,
You had a little puff before?
No, yeah, a little puff before, sure.
Respect. Yo.
I'm sure Pat will have a lot to say about that, but I thought we could all use some levity in the final 9 days running up to the election. But Eleanor, your thoughts on the Giuliani factor as it pertains potentially to Hunter Biden, but any other campaign issues that you think are really instrumental in these last moments before election day?
The fact that we have a president leading rallies and chants about lock her up, about the governor of Michigan, or lock them up, talking about all the Democrats, and asking his attorney general to open an investigation into Joe Biden, who he says is part of a crime family. I mean, this is so over the top. It is not behavior that we normally see in a democracy.
Mr. Buchanan.
Tom, let me say this. I have said in all of these shows, or almost all of them, that Joe Biden's basement strategy was a smart, wise strategy during this COVID-19 thing. But that took him out of the game. It's like a basketball team which has a huge lead and starts freezing the ball, and all of a sudden the other team gets within 10 or 8 points. And then when the first team that was freezing the ball tries to go back on offense, as Biden's going to have to do now for 10 days or so, it loses what it has, the momentum, and the cohesion, all the rest of it. And I think there's a real possibility when Joe, as I think he's going to have to do, comes out, people are going to see him as the far weaker candidate.
Clarence.
Well, you know, this is a time now in which Pat's right that things are tightening up. Now we're getting to election day. I think Joe Biden's biggest ally is what's being called derisively or not Trump derangement syndrome on the part of liberals and Democrats who still feel the PTSD from election day 4 years ago. Who remember that there was a low turnout for Hillary Clinton when she needed it and where she needed it. There was a big turnout for Donald Trump where it was not expected. I think both sides are more prepared this time. That's why we're seeing record turnout. And that's why these last few days and these sensationalist headlines aren't having the kind of impact they would have 4 years ago. We'll see if that really defines the last couple of weeks.
Ryan, do you think this talked about by the Trump campaign Hispanic get out the vote move could push Trump over the finish line?
No, I think that in 2016 Trump had to beat the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, and big tech in order to win. This time he has to beat the Democrat Party, his own campaign, and big tech to win. The fact of the matter is Jared Kushner and Brad Parscale have run one of the most miserable campaigns I've ever seen before in my life. It was incredibly incoherent and stupid. There aren't enough Hispanics in important key swing states to change the trajectory of this election. nor is enough of a black vote that he's going to obtain. Trump could get 10% of the black vote and 40% of the Hispanic vote, but if he drops 2 points with the non-college educated white vote, he's going to lose. There is 2 real big paths to the presidency. One is he drives up the minority vote and keeps a very high percentage of the white working class vote. And secondly is that there's a shy Trump vote among college-educated voters. If he ties Biden with college-educated whites and keeps his humongous lead with non-college-educated whites, Trump's going to win. But it's all on the back of white working-class voters, and those are the people that Jared Kushner hates more than anybody on the planet, and that's why they haven't focused on them. Having a platinum plan to black voters instead of a blue-collar plan to those kind of voters was incredibly incoherent and stupid. But I think that Donald Trump has a path. It is not a huge path, but it is a path. And look, he should come out right now and sit there and say, if elected, he will pardon Hunter Biden in the future, to bring the country together. I think that would be a way to sit there and kind of maybe win over some people.
Clarence, let me bring Clarence back in here. Clarence, do you see the Senate now going Democratic? It really looks that way.
It appears well lined up for that to happen. I'm not going to say Democrats can't snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory. They've done it before, but the stars are so well lined up right now. It's very easy to imagine that will be the case, which will change the tone of the debate over expanding the Supreme Court, for example, and a lot of other issues, the saving Obamacare and expanding it, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't want to get too far out there in dreaming about we're counting my chickens before they're hatched.
Eleanor, your thoughts on that?
Rising tide lifts all boats, and Hillary won the popular vote by 2.1 percentage points. Biden is ahead by 10 percentage points. Even cut that in half, and you're going to see that affect a lot of the Senate races and potentially sweep in at least enough to give the Democrats the majority.
Pat, I'll give you the final word here. Do you think the Republicans are going to lose the Senate? And secondly, if they do and lose the White House, what does that mean for the future of the Republican Party?
I think they will go after, as Barack Obama said, and try to get rid of what they call the Jim Crow relic, the filibuster. And then they'll go all out for 18 months, I think, to try to get their whole agenda through, and you'll have a real backlash and a new Republican Party. But let me just say, Tom, I'm thinking of an October surprise. The only thing I can think of right now that can happen between now and the election, which would have a dramatic impact, is that suddenly Biden is seen as the victim of a right-wing conspiracy and all this stuff put together, or Biden's credibility is called into question because it appears that the conservatives have been telling the truth and he is not. That could really jolt Biden, as I said, because he's got to get out and get the ball moving again in this fourth quarter, and he hasn't been doing that. He's been successfully hiding in his basement, as I've told Eleanor.
All right. Well, Eleanor will never forgive me if I don't give you 10 seconds and then we'll get a prediction.
Joe Biden stayed in his basement because he was practicing health protocols. He is out there now in various events, wearing a mask and socially distanced. This election is a referendum on Donald Trump and his handling of the virus, and that's why he's going to lose.
Okay.
He meaning Trump.
Predictions, Pat.
It was a referendum on Trump, and that's why Trump was losing. But this debate made it a choice election. Do you want that fellow who had a good debate in the first 60 minutes and who faded away? Or do you want Donald Trump, who is assured and presidential and tough and energetic for the next 4 years? So if you got a choice election, Trump has a real chance. Real chance, Tom.
Real chance. All right, Eleanor.
There's no way that 1/3 of the debate last night changed the trajectory of this election, which has been stable from the beginning. And Trump said that he thought the Republicans would win the House. No, Mr. President, you're going to lose the House, and the Democrats are going to add 10 new seats or 10 seats to their already total. So that's where my analysis lands.
Ryan.
I would predict that the United States Senate will end up being 50-50 and that Republicans will probably gain 3 to 5 House seats simply because there are so many Republican seats now in Democrat control after the 2018 sweep. And as far as the presidency goes, we'll see.
Okay, but Ryan, on that point, what percentage chance would you say of Republicans holding the Senate?
I mean, it's all contingent on North Carolina. North Carolina is the only thing that really matters. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Maine. Maine is a very hard state to poll, and they have odd voting behaviors, but Colorado and Arizona are basically lost. Democrats going to lose Alabama. And the question then becomes 50-50, and the whole thing will be held on if Tom Tillis can pull it out in North Carolina.
Okay, very good. Clarence.
The Democrats are hoping for the kind of scenario, racial turnout that you had under Obama, which I predict is not going to happen. There will be be more like what turned out for Hillary Clinton. You're going to have older Black voters turning out in healthy numbers for Biden, but younger Black voters, he still hasn't won them over from the time when he made his "If you don't vote for us, you ain't Black" remark. And a lot will be voting for Kamala Harris by voting for Joe Biden. But I don't expect that's going to be as high of a number as we'd like to see as far as Black turnout is concerned.
All right. I predict that the situation in Lebanon will deteriorate dramatically in the coming weeks. The situation there is now incumbent really on Hezbollah making political compromises they are unwilling to make. Tragically, we may see another civil war. Keep watching that. Thank you for watching the show. We will see you next week.